Happy Friday, guys. It's Rob from the Tech Reps. I'm here with Mr. Mark Christensen from Engine Room Audio. We're going to get a background on him first, but I want to tell you guys how this came about. Universal Audio was nice enough to send us a UAD Satellite unit. I had no idea what to do with it. You know, I do a lot of home audio, video, home automation, smart home, all that good stuff on the Tech Rep side. And I reached out to Dre McKenzie, who's now with Axia Records, formerly of G Unit. That's where I met Dre when we were doing the 50 Cent thing at 50 Cent's office. And I asked him to set me up with somebody who knew what they were doing, and he went overboard. He introduced me to Mark. We were just sitting here for a few minutes, and I was trying to get over what we're about to learn about on this board. And I'm going to let Mark take it away now and tell us what he's been up to the last 25, 30, 40 years.
Yeah, feels like 100 years.
Feels like 100.
Yeah.
100 more to you.
Yeah. Well, my name is Mark Christensen. I'm the head engineer, owner of Engine Room Audio in Manhattan, New York City. We are a production facility. We do a lot of work for major label artists, a lot of indie artists, all kinds of artists. I mean, basically what we do is make records. We have altogether on the floor here about 11 studios. Some are bigger, some are smaller, but we're constantly just churning out music. That's what we do.
That's awesome. So some of the artists you guys work with up in here?
Well, we've worked with 50 up in here. You know, all the G Unit guys have been up in here. We've had, well, LeBron James was here last weekend, or actually
Really?
maybe 3 weekends ago. He was here with 2 Chainz working on some stuff, which is sort of cool.
He didn't wake up happy this morning.
No, exhausted.
Sorry, LeBron.
We've had Nicki Minaj up in here. We've had some really cool new artists. There's a group called the Flatbush Zombies, which are really amazing. I mean, we've had so many people up here. We even had, I mean, who's the cello guy? I'm bad with people's names, but you know, it's a lot of urban pop music, but it's also, you know, it's all kinds of different stuff. We do choral music up here. I've won Grammys for mixing Broadway musicals. So it's, you know, it's not just, I mean, I think our more famous clients are probably urban pop type stuff, but we do all kinds of music.
And I'm sure, Steve, you'll get us some photo shots of those awards and these Grammys and stuff like that. I really want to go to those rooms and check that stuff out. Flatbush Zombies, my daughter was like, who are you going to see? You know, Prin, and she's like, do they know? I forget. She gives me all these names, but she knew Flatbush Zombies.
Oh, yeah, cool.
And after looking at the website, I started listening to some of the artists, and Mr. Probs, I liked it. He's got that silky voice. Definitely check him out. But so what do we got here? Tell me about this piece, please.
Okay, well, Universal Audio, they are making some of the best audio hardware out there. They've been doing it forever. I mean, I don't know how much you know about their company. Their dad actually kind of invented equipment. I know that sounds ridiculous, but he was one of the first audio engineers ever. You know, a lot of the equipment that their father invented is still in use today. You know, the LA2A 1176s, the 2610s like Steve has. You know, and it's shocking to think about, you know, how much stuff he's kind of responsible for. His sons now run this company. They're doing an amazing job, and they're really interested in super high-end audio processing. Obviously, the wave of the future is kind of digital audio. You know, we still use a lot of analog equipment, but the digital stuff is making the production process a lot more streamlined. This box will run what are called plugins, which is like a sort of an additional tool that you can use within a DAW. DAW stands for Digital Audio Workstation. So if you're running Logic or you're running Pro Tools, any of those kinds of applications, you can run plugins from other manufacturers within the context of that application. And what the satellite, the UAD-2 Satellite does is allow you to run their plugins, which are sort of a little more high-end. They're a little more, their R&D process is a lot more intense. The plugins themselves, from a technical perspective, require a lot of horsepower. You know, in the digital audio universe, we call that, what do we call that? It's too early in the morning. DSP, digital signal.
Of course.
Yes,
we have that now. In the field. Of course.
So these boxes actually have a lot of outboard DSP processing power.
Okay.
The octo here refers to the number of chips in there, right? So the octo is sort of one of the more powerful boxes. You can buy them with fewer chips, but this is a box that you attach to your computer. Right. It provides processing that is separate and distinct from the chip in the computer, and it allows these sort of high-end plugins to have more
So you're not eating up that internal memory. The computer's not freezing. You're not getting lag, which I'm sure just makes a mess of what you're trying to do.
Exactly right.
So being new and trying to learn about these things, Mark, who would buy this? I mean, every other friend I talk to is doing mixing in their basement. Obviously not a setup like this. Where do you put this as far as I have to get this one? What number on the list is it? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, well, you know, you attach it to your computer, right?
Right.
You could attach this to your laptop. You could attach it to a larger CPU. One of the great things about this platform is that you can use it very effectively at all different levels of sort of production. You know, if you're doing it in your basement, you could use these plugins to great effect. You could bring this box with you to a big studio like this. You could plug it in. You could use your plugins on the session. So you could start, and I work like this with a number of, actually some of them are bigger artists, where they will actually start the record in their hotel room. They'll have one of these along with their laptop. They'll get the project started. They'll bring it in here. We'll have one of these along with our HD rig, and we'll use the same plugins, a lot of the same setups and tracking that they've already done within Pro Tools. We can also utilize as part of the larger session. So it's super flexible. And
so if I have a laptop and you have to obviously have software that this coordinates with, you have to have something. Can you explain that it's a mixer software, and then you would buy this? Would be the second thing you bought?
Yeah.
That's
yeah. It could easily be the second thing you bought. And they make a version of this, Apollo, which is a smaller guy, which has a lot of processing power in it, but it also has a lot of other functionality, which allows you to turn your laptop into a miniature version of this. It has a lot of sort of talk back. You know, for your artists, you can plug your headphones into it. It has really nice mic pre's in it. So, you know, they're starting to dominate the market a little bit because their stuff is sort of very forward thinking and super utilitarian in the sense that, you know, you can use it every day and to good effect, you know.
So I want to do some backstory on you. I wanted to find out where you came from, and I saw that I watched the video and it said you like to mix the digital and the analog sounds together. And in our industry, we love the old analog tubes because it's such a warmer sound. Is that why you mix them too? And is it because you're older school, the new guys really doing away with? Do they use still the older analog stuff, or?
Well, you know, what I've seen, you know, is that people who've got good ears, they always gravitate towards the analog equipment. And it is true that the digital is getting better and better and better. And, you know, again, I mean, not to be blowing these guys up, but they're starting to break some of those thresholds. There's a very, very well-known mastering engineer who I had an email exchange with earlier this week where we were comparing an analog piece of equipment to the digital version of that exact same piece of equipment coming out of this box. And he was telling me, look, for the first time ever, like literally in my life, in my professional life, for the first time ever, I'm wondering if I might like the digital one a little better. And that, for him, that had never happened before.
You gonna name drop or no?
It's a guy named Andy Van Det, who's amazing. He's worked with Rush. He's worked with a lot of Whitney Houston. I mean, he did a lot of stuff for the Beastie Boys. So yeah, he's been around for a long time, worked on a lot of cool records.
Absolutely.
But yeah, the analog stuff that, you know, there's certain things that digital is amazing for. You know, I used to be like an analog tape freak. You know, I still own a whole bunch of analog tape machines. I used to insist on using analog tape for a lot of different things. But I realized after a while that as long as you treat Pro Tools correctly and as long as you know how to use it, you can kind of get equally good recordings. They are slightly different recordings, but they're not worse, you know. But there are certain applications where the analog is still better, and that's why you sort of want to mix them, you know. There are some major label records, you know, some records in the charts now, well, quite a few records in the charts now that were done exclusively in the box, right? But there's certain kinds of musics that lend themselves to that treatment, right? There's a lot of sort of more of the urban pop stuff, you can get away with that. Some of the very sort of shiny, sort of 2D pop records, you know, I mean, the newest like Taylor Swift record, I mean, you know, Max Martin and those guys, it's an amazing sound, but it's a surface sound. It doesn't have any depth to it.
Got it.
If you go back and try to, you know, if you try to make like an old Bob Dylan record on digital, it's not going to happen. You know, most of the groups that are actual musicians playing instruments with microphones, that stuff is still pretty much, it has to be mixed analog for it to make any sense. You can do it digitally, but you know, it's kind of like the difference between iMacs and Super 8.
Right.
You know, it's
Absolutely.
just it's not the same yet.
And you said good ears. Do you think that the newer generation is losing that, I want to say perspective or that sound, because they're listening to, like, they don't have the music that we grew up with.
Right.
The turntable.
Right. Well, it's an interesting question, and I'll tell you what, I'm in an interesting position because I have like 30 students who are all, obviously, well, not all, but a lot of them are younger guys, you know, guys and gals, and that's one of the things that I'm constantly talking to them about is, you know, what their perception is. And you know, when we were younger, right, if you wanted to be like one of the cool kids on the block, you had to have a cool stereo system, right? And you would
today you better have a cool stereo
exactly.
system.
Well, yeah, I'm still obsessed with that very issue. But you know, the kids today, they don't really think that way. They want to have good headphones, right? But it's not like, oh, let me get the receiver and the speakers and the, you know, all of this stuff. So a lot of them, they haven't really heard what good sound is. But like my fear was, oh, they won't be able to tell the difference. No, they hear it right away.
They can, right?
Oh yeah. And you know, a lot of times at first they're like, oh my God, what's all that low end?
Right.
And I'm like, well, that's what low end actually sounds like, you know. But after they go through, you know, some of these courses I'm teaching, they're all kind of now like, oh, I have to have equipment that actually sounds like something.
Right.
You know?
So you're provoking these kids
Exactly,
to go
yeah.
better.
Their parents are pissed at me.
Let's see what's in the box. As you open that, I'm going to tell you, my daughter, she's 13, and she says, I want headphones for Christmas. I says, okay, no problem. I'm going to get her, you know, we know guys at Macintosh and Sennheiser, and I'm going to get something nice, you know, $200-$300 range. She says, I want Beats.
Right.
You're not getting Beats. And it wound up, I didn't get her the headphones, and her aunt got her the Beats. And it's just like you know, you're trying to teach them the right way, but they want this, what everybody else has.
The problem with these boxes is they're just like an IQ test.
Yeah.
No, well, you know, yeah, that's. I mean, I'm glad you took a stand with the Beats, man.
And then on a Sunday, I'll turn on. We have B&Ws in the living room, and I'll put on her music so that she can listen to it. She notices the difference, like you said, right away.
Right.
But for her to go back to that and turn all that, she's not going to do it. She just sits in her room with the iPad. She has a TV that big in her room, and right on the iPad, watching everything on the mobile phone. It's different. So what do we got? We got the card.
We got the
The
card.
official unboxing from Mark Christensen of the UAD
There we go.
Satellite Octo.
And there's I guess that's not Bill himself,
right,
but
okay.
the company's been around so long that they. So yes, here it is. It's very stylishly designed.
Just looks like an outboard hard drive.
That's what it looks like.
Right.
Similar size, exactly. And it connects via a Thunderbolt connection.
Okay.
They do make
Is
versions.
this balanced audio? What is this?
That,
just
no,
the
just
power,
a power
okay.
supply, yeah.
All right.
They do make versions that also connect via USB 3, I think, and then also FireWire. But most stuff is going to Thunderbolt now. So, I mean, it's basically, that's what it is. You know, you connect it, you know, it has, like I mentioned, it has a power supply. You connect it via Thunderbolt to either your laptop or your CPU. And there's a very small sort of software component that you download, and you run it sort of concurrently with whatever audio software that you're using. But it's pretty, you know, minimal. It doesn't have a very big footprint in the computer at all. It just kind of shows you, you know, what's going on in terms of the processing. And
So this is what we're looking. This is the UAD-2.
well, this is a plugin. This is a plugin. The UAD. I was trying to show you the UAD software.
Looks like an old military radio.
Right. Right. This little console device is also part of the UAD kind of situation there. Without getting crazy, it gets a little complicated, but it does come with a little mixer which runs in an ancillary kind of way additionally to Pro Tools, right? If you're a Pro Tools user, especially if you're using it on a home rig, you're probably very familiar with this concept of latency. One of the problems with a natively run Pro Tools rig is that the chip in there can sometimes get a little overloaded, and especially when you're recording using a microphone. The guys at UAD very successfully dealt with that problem because there's a lot of processing. In fact, I mean, that's what this box is, right? Is it's doing processing. So you can actually, using this little mixer, you can now record without latency, which should be a huge deal to you. Hopefully you understand what I'm talking about. But if you can record without latency, and you can record through some of the really nice mic pre-emulations and stuff. Steve, I know you have a 610. They also have an emulation for that. They have Neve emulations. They have all kinds of really amazing sounding emulations that you can run with no latency using your laptop. And you do that through this little console which they have. So that's a little software that you have to install to run it along with Pro Tools. And then, you know, there are the plugins themselves, right? Which when you buy the box, initially it comes with a certain number of plugins. I don't know exactly how many. It just kind of depends. Sometimes they have promotions and stuff, and you buy the box and they give you X number. They're always going to give you something. And I think to some extent you can even choose which plugins you want to download. Right. Once you have the box, once you've downloaded X number of plugins that are sort of included with it, you can obviously pay more for more of them. Yeah, and there's literally hundreds of them.
So, you know, at the Tech Reps, what we do is we like to take technology. I was thinking on the way down here that music is probably in everybody's life, right? And we touch technology probably every 5 minutes, even outside your field. So we try and provide value to the people who watch the video and see what the value is in this and see what it's about before they go ahead and buy it and really get an expert opinion on it. So that's what we do with the Tech Reps, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my honest opinion is that this stuff is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we wouldn't use it here if it wasn't amazing. You know?
And you're saying it would be the second piece of gear that you would buy.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
I mean, you know, I know you're about opinions and people's opinions. I mean, my honest opinion is I would use their plugins above anything else. Mm-hmm. I know there's a lot of plugin manufacturers out there. Right. You know, there's more and more and more and more than there used to be. Almost all of those plugins are running on your host-based chip. These are running on external DSP, which is kind of a big deal. And not only is the architecture of how they work differently, but the plugins themselves have been developed in conjunction with the actual hardware manufacturers. Right. So the hardware manufacturers are approving the sound of the device, right? Mm-hmm. So it's, you know, I tell my students a lot that it's the one of the few truly professional level things that you can have just on your laptop. You know, if you're using the Octo or if you're using one of their little interface boxes, you know, you can get a quality signal path at home in your basement that'll stand up to a professional level situation. So if you get that perfect take at home in your basement using their equipment or their plugins, you have a good chance of that take being as good as, you know, what's going to happen in a studio like this. So it, you know, you know, we have them in all of our rooms here, and I strongly recommend it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I'm always telling them actually that they need to give me commission on shit because my students go out and buy it. You know.
You keep saying students. You have a school.
I work with right now. I'm working with this school called the Recording Connection, right? And it's sort of like an externship program where there's a curriculum that we teach them, and they also are here during the course of the week, and they observe sessions. They act as kind of assistant engineers. So it's kind of in the studio. It's very hands-on. It's a pretty good program actually.
Where can they find it on the internet?
If they go to RRFC, right, which is Recording, Radio, and Film Connection. So it's rrfc.com.
Okay.
It'll come up.
Awesome, and that's you guys.
We're part of it.
You're part of that.
Yeah, they run the program in different studios across the country. They have studios in LA.
So once they're at rrfc.com, they're going to look for.
Well, if they just look for the producing engineering program.
Okay,
and
producing
then,
and engineering program.
Engine room audio is part of that.
All ages. I mean, you got.
Yep.
Yeah. Even guys our age?
Absolutely. and all levels of knowledge too. I have rank beginners that have never even turned on a computer, but I actually have a couple of guys who have taken the course that are already studio owners, but they were sort of more self-taught, and there was sort of gaps in their knowledge.
Clean it up, yeah.
Exactly.
Sure. So Steve, we're going to get you over there.
Yeah.
Let's see. So you have some samples lined up?
Well, yeah. So this is a plugin. It's a plugin of an equalizer unit, which is, you know, the hardware version is manufactured by Chandler Limited. This is, you know, you were talking about how it looks so vintage. It's actually based on an old EMI design, right, from EMI Studios in London back in the day. And this guy, Wade Chandler, who's kind of a friend of mine, but he bases a lot of his designs on some of this old EMI gear like it was in Abbey Road.
I love it, man. It looks like it's from MASH.
Yeah, you know. Exactly. And it's a beautiful device. We've got it set up currently on on a piano track. I'm working on a record right now for an artist named Larry Johnson, who I think is going to be huge. We just got started on it, and it's this is a track that he's been working on. I can play a little bit. I don't. This isn't an actual mix. These are just parts of the song. But I've got this EQ on the piano. If we solo the piano, which I think is here, turn it up a little bit. This is a pianist named Bennett Pastor, who's crazy good. But so I actually have at the moment, I've got a little bit of a presence kicking in there. It's about 4K roughly. Helping that piano sound a little more bright. If I bypass the plug-in, so here's with it in. If I bypass it, here it gets
flat.
Yeah, it gets a little less lively, a little less exciting. Drop it back in, punches a little more.
So it's just replicating what that physical device would have done if we had it.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. We actually had one of the reps from Universal Audio here a couple months ago actually showing some of my students, and they had a really interesting Pro Tools session that they had put together where they had spent a bunch of time and a bunch of energy lining up a bunch of hardware devices and then comparing it directly with the plugins. Mm-hmm. They recorded it through both versions. They also mixed it through both versions, and then they intercut the song together.
Oh wow.
And the challenge was, can I hear where it changes, and can I hear what the difference is between the various elements? And to be honest, we could hear it, but we weren't always sure which was which. And it wasn't, oh, this is clearly better, this is clearly worse. It was more just like, this one is subtly different, this one is subtly different, but they were both very good. And so, the emulations that they're doing, the difference between the plug-in version of the Chandler and the hardware version of the Chandler, which I don't actually have upstairs, but I'm just pointing over there as if I did.
Right.
But,
he does.
Yeah, it's right there. You can't. It's actually. But they're very, very, very similar.
And I'm so happy you gave us the time, and it's really awesome to sit here. But I'm going to be looking at this more because it's like the symbiotic relationship between us and the computer. Like you guys on this side of the record are waiting for this. All right, it finally tipped. And maybe you just got older and your hearing's not that good anymore, right?
I'm still 5% above normal.
Oh, you really?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. After all this noise.
Knock on wood, yeah.
Yeah. So I appreciate it. We're good. All right.
Excellent.
Anything else you want to shout out? Feel free. We're going to put this on YouTube. We want to give value to Universal Audio, and anybody out there who's looking to do some mixing or whatever Mark has been doing here at the Engine Audio Room. Engine Room Audio. We'll cut that. And whatever Mark's doing here at the Engine Room Audio. All right, guys, listen, I really had a good time here. I want to thank Mark Christensen for the hour or 3 hours, whatever we just spent here. It feels like a long time. I was really expecting for this room to launch with all these controls and stuff. A big shout out to Universal Audio, sending that piece out, giving us the opportunity to review it. We hope you we hook up again. We want to give Mark a control system real quick from Logitech. We're now the reps of Logitech, Mark, and we're going to be setting you up with some other Logitech stuff. We see some remotes floating around, but you'll be able to take this home and or set up these remote controls. So you just hit one button. We'll talk about it off camera, but Logitech is definitely very cool. The way to go for home automation. Would you have any tech at your house? You use any kind of automation?
My wife just bought a place out in Long Island, and we got all kinds of automation going on out
there
now. Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
Awesome.
We have a really cool, the whole house is wired, with speaker systems in every room and all this stuff. And it's
Does it make you happy or you just don't?
No, it's cool.
It's
I
cool?
love it. Yeah.
All right, good. So we'll set you up with a hat here on your house here. All right, guys. Thanks again. Mark, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Cool. Ciao.